The Darkness is a comic book series about a Pharaoh who is possessed by the devilish creature from the Eternal Void that were originally created in 1986 and back in 2007 adapted into the dark, moody first-person shooter with elements of open world in it, to the story of which The Darkness 2 is a direct continuation, in spite of being made by completely different people in completely different art style and without any trace of open world in it. And it's kinda bad. But at the same time it's great, and at the same time it's just okay. Let me explain. I've never played the first Darkness due to it being available only on objectively inferior platforms, none of which my superior ass owns, so I can't compare it to its sequel, but I'm glad that the rich color palette of greyish grey and slightly darker grey has been replaced with something more cheerful. What I do know, however, is that I really want to love this game, and I genuinely like some of its parts. For example, the shooting is probably the most fun I've ever had in a first-person shooter. Period. There is something in how satisfying it is to deal with a pack of enemies while dual-wielding a pair of 911s and simultaneously ripping enemies into pieces with the help of two tentacles from hell. Maybe it's suppressed psychopath in me speaking, but it doesn't get old seeing how your opponent has his spine pulled out from his sphincter. Perfection. It really makes you feel like an immortal force of evil from times before human history even existed. Every enemy encounter is like eating your birthday cake. After every piece of it you only want more and more, until you ate the whole cake and it's 2 AM now. You're overfilled with regret for what you have done. How could you? What have you become? You're disgusted with every life decision you've ever made. It's time for a new start. Time to finally change something in your life. No more old you, weak you. Time to get up and show the world what you are really made of. The winner, the strong, moral and disciplined person. But then, the serpent of devil shows his real face. The one last piece of cake looks at you from the deep insides of your fridge. Your convictions of which you were certain just a moment ago dissolve in a savage, primordial temptation that consumes you from inside, turning you into a beast incapable of seeing right from wrong. And now you stand in the scraps of what once were a human, and try to yourself that it won't happen again. I have no idea where this analogy is going. In short, making heads of unspecified white men explode like a bloody fountain is fun. Game has somewhere around 5 enemy types throughout the whole storyline, but it never gets boring due to how satisfying the combat is. And now about parts that are not so good. As I mentioned in the previous sentence, there are around 5 different types of enemies you will be fighting during the whole game. Add to that 4 boss fights, which are... passable? 2 of them are angry men teleporting around the map, calling you a bitch and throwing shoryukens at you. Hadouken! Hadouken! One is a junkie who runs away from you and spawns suicide bombers. And the last one is a glorious piece of demolition equipment. Not the most extravagant boss collection, but for a game which is about 4 hours long, it is foolish to ask for more. And this game couldn't be any longer, because there is simply not enough content to captivate you for any more than this. You could potentially go for several playthroughs to mess around with all of the upgrades for your personal bringer of the apocalypse, and to see the other ending, but to be honest, you won't get a lot of value from it. Also, there is an online co-op mode, so if you have those mythical creatures called friends, you may fumble for a couple more hours there. And that is all this game has to offer. It saddens me because I could see this game being much more. It could have been one of the best single-player shooters ever created, if it expanded on its enemy variety, more diverse locations and story... Yeah, the story. Remember that fragment from the intro about some part of Darkness 2 being just okay? Well, that part is the story. It won't make you question everything you know about the nature of society and what does it mean to be a human, but at the same time, it's not bad. Generic, yes. Predictable, yes. And so a cliffhanger with hope of having another game to finish the story? Absolutely 100%. Yes, it tries to play with the idea of everything we see not being real, but lack of commitment and obvious bait for sequel in the end makes only one of the endings canon, and other one just a joke for those who don't want to play the last level of the game, because they're late for their Sunday church confession. All in all, this game is truly unique in its genre, and even with all its downsides, I still want the third part of it to see the light of the day, and to finish the story. Only problem is that it has been almost 8 years and not even a single word about Darkness 3 has been spoken. It may be due to its developers hitting a gold mine with the release of Warframe, and right now they're too busy milking it. Can't blame them though, would have done the same for the good old sweet American dollars. But maybe they'll find a little time window between showering in gold and cocaine and put some of their infinite money to developing a small little project which could possibly become an outstanding, one of its kind legendary masterpiece. That will most probably never happen, but what else is left of a man if you take hope away from him? Just an eternal, unending, infinite, abiding, everlasting, indefinite, perpetual, endless, relentless darkness. 2.